whole Ohtani thing. Okay, I didn't hear your thoughts. We've had a lot of people on this show, ex-players, even players that are still in the league. And I asked them, do you believe Ohtani was involved at any point in this scam and this betting situation? I do believe. It's hard to believe that his best friend in Anaheim was involved with it, and his interpreter, who was one of his best friends, were involved with it. Whatever his name was, he was involved with it, and that he didn't realize that there was $18 to $19 million missing out of his account, because Mr. Deven, Marrero, I'm very bad with names, but Devin, all about this. When it comes to the game and when it comes to money, what's in and out of your account. It doesn't matter how rich you are. You're missing $18 million. It's hard to believe. Do you believe, honestly, and I know, and we've said this before, I know baseball is trying to protect their best player and their best asset. Do you believe that Ohtani had something to do with that?
No, zero. Because I'm close with Mookie. Mookie's been in the locker room with him for a whole year now. Mm-hmm. And this guy knows nothing about sports, like besides baseball. Like all he cares about is baseball, and that's it. So the fact that has betted allegedly $19 million on football and all these other sports, I don't believe it. And just his character, man, and what everyone says about him that's in that clubhouse. And listen, he's so rich and has so much money that I know 18 million sounds like a lot to a lot of people, but I'm sure that guy and his trusted advisors were working behind him in a way where like he couldn't really notice it, So I don't. His character and what I've heard about teammates that have played with him and stuff, I don't think he had anything to do with it, and I hope not. And I hope, it's was just those two guys, because he means a lot to this game, and his reputation would go out the door. We saw what happened to Pete, and this would trump Pete.
I was just gonna cut you off there. Do you believe that Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame?
100%.
Why is baseball keeping him out of the Hall of Fame? I don't want to hear that, because he's alive, and when he dies, he'll be the first person into the Hall of Fame. It's ridiculous. The guy should be in the Hall of Fame. He's the greatest hitter in baseball history. There's no reason why. You don't want him in baseball. You don't want to bring him back into baseball. That's fine. He's still making millions of dollars signing autographs. I don't think Pete Rose cares if he's involved with baseball anymore. But he should be in the Hall of Fame. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and you see the guys that have played with him too, and you watch his games. Like, I don't really remember watching his games, but I've seen extended highlights of him, and you can tell this guy never bet against his team. This guy played probably the most hard-nosed baseball game that there is. He invented the hard-nosed culture, playing hard 90s. This guy was the American baseball culture, right? Of playing hard and all that. So I think he deserves it, man, because how many guys do we know that are in the Hall of Fame that didn't get caught for steroids but that are in it? You know what I mean? There's so much stuff going on in the whole Hall of Fame thing, but I think he deserves it. You talk about baseball in its entirety, that guy was one of the best baseball players in his time.
Devin,
that should be the criteria, not what he did off the field, not, you know what I mean? Who cares?
I get so angry because I interviewed Eric Davis. I was at an event. Everybody knows who he is. He played for the Green Machine or whatever, the Red Machine, Red Machine, whatever the hell they call themselves over there in the the 70s and the 80s. He knows Pete Rose. And I asked him, I said, do you believe Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame? He looked at me like he was about to rip my head off my body. And he said, what do you think? And I said, yeah, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. I've been arguing on my radio show for years. And he says, well, I'm going to tell you, I don't want to mention any names, but you know what the names are. There are reasons why he's not in the Hall of Fame. It's a sham. He says it's a sham that the MLB is keeping this man out of the Hall of Fame for all the great things he did in the game and all the great things he did outside of the game. And people forget that because of all this betting crap, which, by the way, he never betted against his team. He betted for his team. So it doesn't make any sense. If he bets against his team, he's planning to lose. If he's betting for his team to win, he's planning to win. So what is the reason why he's not in the Hall of Fame? Makes no sense.
Yeah, but I think you give it 10 more years, some of these old alumni guys will kind of not care anymore because alumni can still vote guys in. I don't know if you guys knew that. Alumni can get together and still vote guys in. So like people are saying in about 5 years, they think he'll get in and then Barry will get in because the alumni will come together and be like, guys, screw it. These guys deserve to be in here. Like, let's go. Like the new generation, I think, is going to be the new set of alumni guys are going to really appreciate those guys and we're going to want them in the Hall of Fame. So give it 5 10 years, and I bet you those guys sneak in.
I want to see Barry Bonds. I want to see Roger Clemens. Don Mattingly should be in the Hall of Fame for the 5 or 6 years he was dominant. I love Joe Mauer. I'm sorry. I love Joe Mauer. He was a great player, great catcher. At the time, he was an elite catcher. His numbers, the Silver Sluggers that he won. But Don Mattingly had the same numbers as Joe Mauer. And Don Mattingly is not in the Hall of Fame, but Joe Mauer is. It doesn't make sense. You have guys. I'll say this. I think Tim Raines was a good player. He's not a Hall of Famer. I could go Harold Baines. You think Harold Baines is a Hall of Famer? He's not a Hall of Famer. It makes no sense how they pick these guys because he was Tony La Russa's guy. And we met Tony La Russa. Love the guy. And I had an interview with him and I wanted to ask him that question, but I didn't want to piss the man off. He looked like he still, as an old guy, he still could coach and probably rip your damn head off. So I didn't want to piss Tony off, but it doesn't make Harold Baines should not be in the Hall of Fame.
It's these writers, man, that are in charge of this, right? And David Ortiz getting in and all these guys getting in, and it's like you realize that how you treat the media helps you, like when you played. And I think that's kind of like a big aspect of it too, is that guys don't really realize is how you treat media when you play affects you getting in or not as well. So you have to look at that too, man, and see how guys treated me. Like they did that Barry documentary on him not getting in the Hall of Fame, and all the writers got together and made a documentary, and they pretty much bashed him the whole time because they didn't give access to his life and his career. You know what I mean? So that's all part of it, man. And I hope these writers get it right and start putting some of these guys in that really deserve it just because of the way they played the game and what they did for baseball. They put baseball on the map. You know, like when baseball was getting boring, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and Barry Bonds saved baseball.
100%.
You know, and just because of that, they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? And yeah, their numbers speak for themselves, but those guys saved baseball. You know, like there's a reason why they didn't test for steroids then, because they were like, hey, this is helping save baseball. You know what I mean? So you can't really penalize these guys, right? Because you look at the game back then, you watch these guys come up to the plate, you could tell who was and who wasn't on steroids, and it was 95% of these teams.
How is Bud Selig in the Hall of Fame? And he was involved with it. He was there. How is he in the Hall of Fame? George Steinbrenner's not in the Hall of Fame. Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, all these guys. He was involved with all of this, and he sits there and he says, "Oh well, I didn't know what was going on." Get out of here!
Sure.
Don't
Save it.
Yeah, I can't stand it. Him and Rob Manfred can kiss my rear end. Okay, both of them can kiss my rear end. And when Rob decides to retire, I'll make sure I stick my fanny in his face. He can kiss it all night long.
When Albert Pujols becomes commissioner,
I can't stand him. I would never. If somebody offered me a baseball job and asked me to work on the MLB.com, I would just bash Rob Manfred the whole time. I wouldn't have a job. Okay, they would hate me. So because I just think as a commissioner, the guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's just an idiot. He ruins the game. Get away from the game already. Just retire. Make it better for me.